3, 2. All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Kurt Elster. I'm a Shopify Plus expert, as you know, at my consultancy, ethercycle. We help Shopify store owners uncover hidden profits in their stores. I do quite a few things. You probably know me from messing around in Facebook groups, the unofficial Shopify podcast, or my book, Ecommerce Bootcamp, Ecommerce Hacks Weekly, Shopify Sunday Drives. Basically, I'm constantly producing content. I can't stop. And I'm happy to do it to provide value to the community. And today, we continue that tradition. Today, we're presenting the Facebook funnel formula with Kurt Bullock. For the last year or so, Kurt Bullock has done all of the actual implementation, the hands work, and has taught me quite a few things on implementing Facebook funnels, managing Facebook campaigns, Facebook ad campaigns, and just really doing a tremendous job in providing a return on ad spend for Shopify store owners. So before we get into that, a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, because Mr. Bullock does tend to get technical, so if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask them. Please type them into the question box. There's this in Crowdcast under the video window. This is a big red button. Put them in there. I know it also has the chat. You can ask in the chat, but I might miss it. So try to put them in use that big red ask a question button, put them in there. And then at the end, either like if it's an amazing question, I'll try to ask it during the presentation to clarify. If not, there will be time at the end and we'll go over those questions. So for attending the webinar live, that is your reward. You can ask questions as you have them and we'll answer them. So now, without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Kurt Bullock.
Right on. Okay. Let's see. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Kurt. So yeah, let's just dive right in. I do have a tendency to sometimes get a little technical, as Kurt mentioned. So raise your hand if I can do anything to help explain these concepts. Today, we're going to start out by the topic is Facebook funnels and how we can use them to grow our Shopify stores. And so we'll be talking about how to create your funnel, the different audiences that you want to be focusing on, the different messaging that you want to focus on at these different levels, because that can get confusing, right? And then we'll be talking about a little bit of just sort of the buyer psychology, why a funnel works, and then I'll have examples. So you can look at some ads that we have run for a few clients of ours, and then a Q&A at the end. Okay, so we'll just jump in right here. So the quote, right? You guys can read as easily as I can, but I found this was really interesting because when we're doing our advertising, it says here only 3% of our market is actively buying in that moment. 50% aren't ready, and 40% are poised to begin. So we'll unpack what that means a little bit, a lot as we go through this presentation. But I thought this was an interesting stat to start out with and keep this in mind. So we'll talk about what we can do and what this all means for us here. So let's start with maybe a typical Facebook ads experience from the standpoint of a end user, and then also you as a store owner. So generalizing here, but let's say that somebody goes onto Facebook. Typically when you're on Facebook, right, you're not looking for stuff to buy, and you're definitely not looking for the latest advertisements to be showing up. So you're looking for what your friends are doing and entertainment value. And let's say that just we'll give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that this person sees a product related to her life, clicks on the ad, sees products in your store, thinks this would be great, and then maybe she's at the doctor's office or on her mobile phone or interrupted and leaves the store, goes back to the endless scrolling on Facebook, right? And oftentimes that is the end of the story. Now that's a real basic experience there, but it illustrates a few needs here. We'll go into another one here. So even more typical, and this is one that you probably will identify with a lot more. So same story, right? Somebody, let's say this woman goes onto Facebook, scrolling through, hoping to be entertained, usually just passing time away. Again, let's say in our example, maybe sitting in the doctor's office or something like that. And half the ads that she's seeing in her feed are, making her BS alert fire as she scans them, right? Because we don't take every flyer and ad at face value. And so, because we don't have any trust established with these brands. So again, let's say she sees products related to her life, clicks on the ad, looks at the products on your store, thinks this week, great, leaves. And then, this is the part that's more typical, is that then she gets back onto Facebook and sees your ad, your retargeting ad that you have placed, thinking that, this is going to help your conversions. And she sees that day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, right? Until finally, there's a graph that I meant to include on here that shows people's experience when they see the same retargeting ad all over, again and again, when it's not relevant to them or when they don't take any action on it. And it's funny, it starts out saying, annoying is the first thing that people actually show in this survey. And then it goes to helpful after a few days for some reason. And then right around the time, between 8 and 10 exposures to this ad, people start to get angry, and they write angry, and they start disabling your ad. They click do not show, which raises the cost of your ads. And then as the advertiser, right, you are left with few conversions. Your relevance score goes down. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means and why you should care about it. And ultimately, you miss out on a ton of customers. You're just getting a few customers. I think I've got some stats here, right? So 2% is the average number of people that will convert on the first interaction. And I think that's even high for a lot of advertisers, just because there's so many other variables with time of day and your messaging and making sure that all those things will hit. But let's say 2%, right? So we need to figure out what to do to raise that number and to reach the other people that just aren't ready to buy yet. I've got a couple more stats here. So 63% of the people evaluating your products today won't be ready to purchase for at least 3 months. And then the quote went on to say that an additional 20% may take up to 12 months. But if we take just the shorter view, right, you have to be ready for people not to convert the very first time they see your ad. And when I've got a few Shopify stores, and when I first started running ads for those stores and learning about how to grow a Shopify store, that's exactly what I did. I ran ads to a promotion, and it was very expensive to get new customers. And so I had to pull out all the stops and do free plus shipping offers, and I was making a razor thin margin, and it was very difficult to make work. This is a stat you guys all know, 8 to 12 times is the average number of touches people require before making a purchase. And of course, all these stats are setting us up for the funnel, right? So let's look at that experience that we described, but using a funnel. And this will be idealized. We'll go through a few different scenarios here. But so I have I'm going to break down the parts of a funnel as I see them, and then give you guys some examples here. So let's say that same person, on getting to Facebook, sees content that she's interested in because she's a member of your target audience, right? So you've set up your targeting, and she sees, in this example, we'll say that this is somebody who is into this Whole30 diet. It's sort of like a paleo style diet, but Whole30 diet, and maybe you sell related products, meal planning, or like a protein powder, something related to that. So she gets on, sees this, and clicks through. There's no pitch here, right? It's just interesting to her. So she clicks through, scans it for a few minutes, and then returns back to her day, let's say, or at the doctor's office, right? So then the next stage here, let's say the following day, while scrolling through the Facebook feed, then now you see this, guide, 7-day meal planning guide for Whole30. So this is an email opt-in using something called a lead ad, but there's any number of ways you could set this up. But if you use a lead ad, then on a mobile phone, you don't even need to type, you don't need it on a desktop either, but you don't need to type in your email address. It'll populate the email address for you. So she just clicks through that. It's super easy. And you've collected the email address now, and now, right, she can consume that content, hopefully. Now we can actually connect this to our email marketing, and that's a whole, additional discussion, but you would want to deliver that and maybe give her a few reminders to open that up. Now, before we move on here, I guess there's lots of ways to collect emails for opt-ins. We'll talk about more of them just a little bit later on, but you could also do something like a opt-in for 10% shipping if you're sending somebody to your site. So then let's say, she's opted in. So now she's had a chance to consume 2 of your content items, right? Looking through recipes, got a meal planning guide. And now as advertisers, right, we now know that we're dealing with somebody that is qualified. This is somebody in our target market, and we're no longer targeting the, let's say, 2 million people if you're in the US with a lookalike audience or something that may have been your initial audience. You have reduced this down to the thousands of people if things are going well, right, that have taken action on these steps. So after she's gone through these things, that would be a great time to show top selling product carousel ad, right? Start to show the products that you offer. If she doesn't bite on that, then maybe a few days later, how to choose the right, protein powder, let's say, or meal planning service. And then a few days later, reviews from customers. And we cycle through content and videos. It's like an email nurture sequence, but since we're doing this to just the people that are qualified, it's a very small audience, it's not expensive to do, and the return on investment is very high. It's a very effective way. And this is how we get people to, this is how we stay top of mind for 3 months later, let's say, when people are actually ready to purchase. So let's go here. So let's say that after any one of these steps here, purchase is made, she gets a thank you video from the owner, or it could just be an image. Sometimes I'll do like a photo of the team. It says thanks from the whole team here. Helpful information, how to use this product, and maybe a thank you promotional code, right? So this week, grab a second one for 10% off. But the idea here is to acknowledge that you have a new customer here. Let them know that you do, right? Because we're trying to build an experience for this end user that is unlike the first 2 examples, where they're just getting hammered over and over with the same information. In this experience, the information is varied. It is based on the behaviors or the actions that she takes. So in this phase, we are trying to delight the customer and be helpful. Next, I like to put in a post-purchase rest. It's like a promotional blackout period, if you will. And this will oftentimes coincide with shipping time. So if your product takes 14 days to ship out, maybe on day 15, then we could resume these other sequences that are going to come later. But really, all your efforts and attention to detail and crafting all this stuff can be flushed down the toilet pretty quickly if, the day after they purchase your product, they see that you're having a sale on that product, right? And they could have gotten it for cheaper or something like that. It can ruin a lot of the goodwill that you've generated and the illusion of really this personalized messaging. So that's one reason I like to have this sort of promotional blackout period after purchases are made. Then finally down here, she becomes a repeat customer. That's the goal here. And so to facilitate that, then she might see things like related products. So you could do cross sells and upsells. So in this case, let's say she bought some protein powder. Maybe you suggest that she might need some protein shakers for taking to the gym or the office. If it's a consumable product, are you running low reminders? These things are great. You can use Google Analytics to find out your customers' sort of purchase cycle and how often repeat purchases are made. Take the average, and then that can be when you set up these reminders. They don't need to be just for consumables either. In this case, are you running low is tailored to a consumable, but that could just be the time that you introduce additional messaging, right? So it could be top selling products or our newest products. So write the newest products to your store, products we think you'd be interested in, all those sorts of things. Now, this is all a system that you build out, right? So in the meantime, you'll be doing sort of the equivalent of email blasts, where if you have promotions and things, you send those out. They are ad hoc, purpose specific promotions that you can send out. But as far as a funnel and building out the machinery, it's great to put all these components in there. And then finally, reactivation campaigns. So let's say that your customer is no longer a repeat customer and maybe has not made a purchase for 60 or 90 days, whatever time period would be abnormal for a good customer, right? Then I like to put in what's called a discount ladder, and that's essentially where we increase the discount over time, because the farther somebody is from their last action. So the longer somebody goes without taking action, making a purchase, or consuming your content like videos and blog posts, that sort of thing, then typically the harder it is, and the larger an offer you're going to have to throw at them to get them to sort of snap out of it and come back into the fold, right? So we might start out with 10% at day 90, and then day 100 or 125 up it, and do 20% or 15%, that kind of thing. And oftentimes we will tailor those messages. They could be related to products that their most recent purchase, that kind of thing, using DPA ads. But I'll show you guys how those work a little bit later. So this is that's a lot of information, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more, and I have some actual examples with screenshots of these sorts of campaigns. But there's sort of a formula that you guys have probably heard if you've studied Facebook ads or marketing, that kind of thing, right? You hear people say, you need the right offer, the right time, the right person. And my nod to Napoleon Dynamite, we watched that last week, all your wildest dreams will come true. But really, if we're talking sort of in funnel world here, then this is the right offer, right? That's our messaging. The time is our behaviors, because we're doing behavior-based marketing. And the targeting is the right person. So if we look here at our funnel again, then right here, so behaviors is facilitated by, so each of these, and again, I'm sorry, I keep on saying this, that we'll look at this further down, but I don't want you guys to get too confused. I will talk about how you target each of these groups. And so we'll go into a little bit more detail, but the behavior is this, right? It's the stage that they're in. And so we can, based on the actions they take, they're going to be placed into these different groups. And that is really related to targeting as well. We'll start out at the top with some sort of targeting, like a lookalike audience, which if you're brand new to Facebook, it's you can generate an audience of completely unique people, so new faces, using an existing list you have. Oftentimes people use their customer list to generate that. So you have a few people that make it through your funnel, and down here at the bottom you have customers. So you would take that list of customers, if I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or not, but at any rate, and then you would generate a lookalike audience. You have a totally new audience of people that meet sort of the salient attributes of your customers, hopefully, and you let Facebook do its magic to come up with that list. And then you would target them at the top of the funnel again, because that's a proven group that go through this particular funnel that you've set up. So that's how we would start out with targeting, but the rest of the targeting sort of happens like a Plinko board, I guess. As they go through these different things, they self-select and they raise their hand based on the things that they do. So funnels, why do we use them? So you've probably seen, if you didn't already know, what a funnel is, and sort of the machinery, right? All the pieces that are in a funnel. But ultimately, a funnel is there to help people discover your products and your business. That's sort of the top of funnel, to generate demand, right? So Google is at least, so Google's search platform, that is more of a demand fulfillment platform. AdWords as well. So people search for protein powder. Right now, I really need some protein powder. Go to Google, look it up. There's already a demand, right? And so that's going to help you fulfill that demand. Now in Facebook, people, as we talked about earlier, they're not going to Facebook in search of a product. They would go on Facebook to connect with people and to be entertained. So Facebook helps us. We need to do demand generation, and demand generation doesn't happen in most cases just by putting up a promotion, right, for your product. If they don't know anything else about you or the product or why it should fit into their life and what it might do for them, all those things. So that's why we use a funnel to help walk people through those questions and set the stage so that we do foster trust, right? We grow our trust before asking for the sale. And ultimately, it lowers the cost of acquisition and increases the very bottom of the funnel, which is the repeat customers and lifetime value of your customers. So, right, somebody checking out your products for the first time, they should get different messaging than somebody who buys from you all the time, right? The first guy should get a promotional deal to lower the barrier to entry to becoming a customer, right? You want them to be able to sort of dip their toe in the water and see these guys are legit. They're not a fly-by-night operation. The product was great, or the experience that I had, even if it was just some sort of a free download. And then, right, so your customers, people that buy from you, they don't need deals anymore. That's something I see a lot of my clients doing. That's a mistake, right? You pay an opportunity cost there when you're subsidizing everybody by giving them promotions that they didn't need. What they really need is more cool stuff to buy. You know what they like now, at least something about them. They liked what they purchased last time. That's what you know. And so you can use that information to give them more great things to buy and more content to keep them interested in the topic and in your brand. And then finally, somebody who hasn't been around in a long time, you need to do something to try and get them back to your store. And so that's the reactivation campaigns that we were talking about, and that can involve promotions. Let's see. So let's talk about targeting a little bit and the temperature of our audiences. So I'll just jump down here and show you. This is the basic 3 categories that I use when I talk about targeting, and that's cold, warm, and hot. So if we map it out to the funnel that we were just looking at, cold is at the very top. That's our awareness stage. These are people that don't know anything about us. They've never been to the site. We can at least say that much. They haven't been to our site before. Warm. So these are people that after they have engaged with us on some level, hopefully they've made it to our site. These are the people that are going to want to be learning more about your products, learning more about you as a company. Are you trustworthy or not? They're looking at your About Us page. They're looking at the guarantees, all these different things, right? This is your opportunity to build trust, is in the warm phase. And it's not just an opportunity, it's you really need to do it to be successful at this. Otherwise, the lower your trust is with your customers and prospects, the higher your conversion cost. So I look at building trust as a way of lowering and decreasing my costs, increasing profitability. So, and then finally, hot. These are customers and repeat customers. So, and these, a lot of times people are so focused on just being converting new customers, just growing with new customers, that they forget about their existing customers. And we'll go into that a little bit more here. But so here I have this example that you guys may have heard before, right? Where e-commerce relationships are similar to real relationships, where you wouldn't ask somebody to marry you the first time that you go out on a date, right? And you need to build that trust in that relationship, as we were talking about. And so in the same way, asking for a sale in the very first interaction is not very effective. And let's see. So we're going to want to use the different segments to with our targeting. So here's an example of, for those of you that are new to Facebook advertising, this is the custom audience window. And so here I've got a few of the newer audiences that you can build. This slide actually was supposed to be a little bit different. I probably would have shown something a little bit more basic, but this is really cool. Now you can do things like this one here on the left is looking for people that have made a purchase of $100 or more in the last 180 days. Now, this we generated so that we could create a lookalike audience of people that are considered to be good customers based on the value of this store's products. And then over here, we've got customers that have made 3 purchases or more in the last 180 days. This is another great audience to use when you're building lookalikes to feed the very top of your funnel. So these audiences right here themselves are bottom of the funnel audiences. These are people that have made it through your funnel already. But once we turn them into lookalike audiences, generate lookalike audiences, then we create cold audiences from these 2 custom audiences. So cold traffic. These are people that, as I mentioned, they haven't visited your website, they don't know your business. The goal here is to get them on a retargeting list. That's kind of my micro goal. So throughout this whole funnel, obviously my main goal is to generate sales. And somebody can make a purchase the very first time they see my ad, and they're not going to see all the other ads and all that other stuff necessarily. They'll go straight to the bottom, and that's fantastic. So that's just something to keep in mind. If I can just jump back here, each of these layers and these campaigns are mutually exclusive. So I'm not going to have people receiving my cold messaging and my cold campaigns while they're in the warm, the warm audience segment or targeting segment. So I exclude both of the other segments whenever somebody makes it to one of these. And I do the same with these campaigns here. So I'm not showing my cold campaign promotions, that are aimed at first-time purchasers, right? Getting that first customer down here at my repeat customers. It's just a total mismatch. So that's important. Now, apart from the messaging mismatch, it also increases your costs in Facebook because you're bidding against yourself. And Facebook is a little bit smarter now in a way that now they're going to disable part of that audience for one of these 2, but the problem is they pick which one. So if you do have big crossovers from one audience to the other, that's something to look at in your targeting, because Facebook's not now, this is something new as far as I know, they're not going to be showing everything to everyone. If this was all the same audience, they're going to pick which one, and they have an algorithm that says which one is the most effective. But that might not be your goal, right? You don't want Facebook making decisions for you in this case. Okay, so right, to summarize, we like to essentially show, I have this thing I call the content first approach. Kurt and I did a podcast about it last week. If you're interested, you could check it out on the Unofficial Shopify podcast. And there's some real specific funnel maps that show you how to build that. But so use the content first approach to educate your audience about your product, why it's the best and why they need it today, and then discount as opposed to doing that right off the bat. So all right, we talked about cold. Now let's jump down to warm. These people know who you are. They may be on your list. Actually, let me just wrap this up. So the goals here, I got sidetracked, is to get them on a retargeting list. So that's my micro goal. I want to, if I can, capture their email address and educate them. So when I'm looking at my cold audience campaigns, one of the metrics I'm going to be looking at is my cost per conversion to the website. So my cost per click. And I consider it a win to build up that initial retargeting list of people that have made it to my website, because once that happens, they're now in the warm traffic bucket. So targeting, when you're coming up with your cold traffic targeting, you look at things like, so this is from least to most effective. So lookalike audiences. This is a real common way to build your cold targeting. So you could build a lookalike audience of Facebook engagement, like people that view videos of yours on Facebook. You can even use people that engage with your Facebook page and posts on your page. This is all something that came out this year, where you can start to build these custom audiences and lookalike audiences based on the actions people take even before they get to your store while they're on Facebook. And this is very cool, especially if you're a new store. You might not have a ton of web traffic right now, but if you have any kind of a Facebook presence, you can start to use that, leverage that to build your cold traffic audiences. So video viewers, newsletter list is more effective. Even more effective still is the customer list. And then the very best, if your customer list is large enough, is to take segments of your customer list. Get, like you saw in the example a few slides back right here, people that have purchased over a certain amount or purchased 3 times in a time period. So Facebook has come out and said quality is better. It's more important than quantity. Now they do have some minimums there, but they would much rather see a really highly targeted list than so let's say this is a list, a small list because it's really highly segmented versus your newsletter list, which is really large, let's say. Honestly, I would test both of them, but Facebook has said, don't discount this small list. Try this out. Okay, warm traffic. Our goals here are to capture the email address. We're trying, the overall sort of theme in this phase is lowering the barrier for them to become a customer. And that can be, providing information to them, these guides that we were looking at, like the meal planning guide. And you can, if you can convert them to a customer, I mean, that's where I'm optimizing most of my campaigns here for purchases. If you are in this stage of your Facebook career that kind of what all the optimization stuff means. We'll go over that a little bit more later. But so a few of the custom audiences that I use when I'm looking at warm traffic, people that viewed your product page, people that spent time on your site. And this is new. You used to have to use third-party tools to get this kind of thing. You could tell if somebody made it to your site, but you couldn't see how long they were on there and if they bounced. So people used to use third-party, scripts and stuff like that. But so now we can capture the top 25% of people based on time spent on your site. That's a great audience to target. Viewed blog posts, downloaded your lead magnet, signed up for your newsletter. These are all different actions that we can track. You can view, people that abandoned their cart, people that added something to their cart more than one time in a given time period. People that looked at a certain, specific product more than one time in a time period. All these different segments. So you're really you've got a lot of options. I would start basic here before you get real fancy and just target people that have looked at the products. If they've looked at your products, then try and bring them back and get them to add to cart and make that purchase. But next, here's our hot traffic bucket. So our goal here is to increase the frequency of our purchases. So these are people that are going to, so this is our customer list, our repeat purchases. So we want to increase the frequency and increase the average order size and keep people engaged. So we also put our reactivation campaigns in here. Targeting, I use Klaviyo to synchronize my customer email list. You can also just upload it manually. And so you could export it from Shopify and plug that right into Facebook custom audience. Or you could use custom audiences to do that. And there's two primary ways. One is to create an audience based on the people that visited your thank you page. And the other one, this is the one that I use, it's to create a custom audience with people that fired this purchase event, because Facebook gives us more parameters as we looked at up here, right? If you use this event instead of a URL, then you can specify things like the value of their purchase, how many times they purchased, all these different data points that you're sending to Facebook these days. Oh, now let's see. So I've got here examples of the different layers. Let me just see if there's, let's see, there are questions here. Newer, okay, good. All right, awesome. These look like good questions that I'll tackle then as soon as I make it to the Q&A. I'll just get through this last part of the content here. So I should have had this probably on the side so you could sort of reference where we're at. But we're going to start at the very top here and look at some examples of awareness campaigns. So this is for a client of ours, Prairie Mod. And in this case, we're using a video, right? Behind the scenes video. These work great. Quizzes, another client. And this one, they're selling mala beads. We did a quiz, which mala is right for you? And we've actually generated a ton of email addresses first. And then these email addresses are sent to Klaviyo and a whole flow is triggered. So this works really well at the top of your funnel. Collection ads. So this is one of the new ad types that was somebody asked about here a few minutes ago. Adam, let's see, cares. Yeah. So this new ad type, collection ads, I'm still figuring out exactly where I like to use these. But the collection ads it's pretty cool. It lets you combine a video ad. So up here we have a video on top, and on the bottom we've got a carousel ad of products, a carousel of products, excuse me. And I think I've got another, yeah, here we go. This shows you what happens when you click on it. Instead of just going straight from this collection ad to your store, it opens up very quickly a new window with a product set, and you can tell Facebook what you want in you can specify what should be included in a product set. So if you click on any of these items, very quickly this window pops up. You can scroll through, and if you want, you could go back without ever visiting the site. But if you click on any of these items, then it takes you to the product page to complete your purchase on the Shopify store. So I'm actually having really great results with these. Right now, I just haven't decided exactly where I like to use them best, whether it's in the awareness phase or the sort of second warm traffic phase, right? Sort of the research phase. And I'm using them in both right now. So I guess another answer here too, just to keep in mind, is that with all this stuff, this is kind of, I'm showing you some recipes, but you'll want to test these things out for yourself. Just because I have something included in the very awareness phase doesn't mean you shouldn't put it in research phase, or however you might want to structure these things, because you want to customize it based on your sales experience, your customer journey, if you will, and kind of engineer that first, then figure out what you need to do to build that. A lot of times people just get excited, myself included, in just sort of all the tools, and let me build out this big automation sequence or use this new ad type. Why? Because it's new and it's there, right? I do that all the time. So it's important to have a plan when you're building these things out. So surveys also work great. All right, let's jump down here to the research level. So lead magnets work great. Again, back to this brand Prairie Mod. Initially, they had a video. After people watched the video, right? So that first step reduced the cold audience down from a few million down to this list of a few thousand people. That in this case, I think we targeted people that watched 50% of the video or more. But you can adjust that to 75 or 95% of the video, I believe, and as low as 25%. So we just showed the people that made it through that first layer this ad for a lead magnet, and we actually used a Facebook lead ad. I'll show you what that looks like here. So a lead ad is it's a great alternative to having a landing page on your site. It's really good for mobile. Now you can do it on desktop as well. But so we have this ad. You click Learn More, and a little form pops up, and you can actually change the questions here, but I usually keep it short and sweet. I know some people, though, ask for your cell phone number here as well, and they can send out text messages and that sort of thing, and that has worked really well, particularly in sort of lead gen service-based businesses. But so when you click on this, it'll populate your name and email address, which is awesome because you don't need to if you're on a mobile phone, it's really hard to type in all that stuff and people are going to turn away. It's just not worth the effort. But if you see your name's already populated in there, why not? You click next, right? And then you can synchronize this list with Klaviyo using or any other number of tools and start an email nurture sequence. But so in this case, right, so we brought them to this lead magnet and I guess contrasting it with a landing page. So I didn't need to build out a landing page on their site for this to happen. A landing page introduces a whole nother set of variables, right? The layout of the page, and you have to build out a page. This keeps everything really consistent. Top selling products carousel ad. This is another one that I use after people start engaging. Then I will show them a promotion. Upselling products, social proof ads. These are great as well. This is, down here we're using a review from one of their customers. We have Patricia L, verified buyer, 5 stars up there. And these actually generate quite a bit of activity. It's interesting. When I first started building these, I thought they would play more of a behind the scenes role in these funnels, but they actually drive sales for a lot of our clients. Guides. So here's an example, right? The ultimate guide to buying a new camera. For one of my stores, I had 40 essential oil diffuser recipes, and people downloaded that like crazy. And it was obviously essential oil related products. So those sorts of guides work really well. Now, this research, sort of the warm phase, I'm lumping them all together, but really I have multiple campaigns going here, like an abandoned cart. I consider that part of this warm or research phase. Now, we don't have time to go real in depth as to like dynamic product ads and all of that, but just know that this lets us, with this here, we're showing people the products they looked at while they were on the site. Excuse me, for an abandoned cart ad, we're actually showing them the products they added to their cart. And now a lot of times for an abandoned cart ad, I'll do a single image dynamic product ad. And I've got a little, here we go. This shows you how a dynamic product ad works. You have a product feed that it's essentially just your list of products from your store. And there's plugins that will do this, set this up for you. You set up a template. So if you have 500 products in your store, you don't need to write 500 different ads. You can use these variables and these placeholders to come up with your ad. And then Facebook will use your product feed and populate the variables there. And then campaigns, right? Which is the delivery vehicle for your ads. And then out the other end, right, pops these personalized ads. And they really are personalized based on the actions that they took while they were on your site, what they added to cart, what they purchased. Okay, so now let's move down to our customers. And I'm noticing here that I actually didn't update the image. So this is from our last level, but thank you video, helpful blog posts. So a lot of times what I'll do with this blog post is provide them information like how to use the product they just purchased. That can be really helpful. Grab a second one for 10% off this week. It's kind of like a thank you discount. This is all sort of to delight the customer. Repeat customer segment. So this is where we lean real heavily on our dynamic product ads to use like upsells and cross sells. So in our example of the protein powder that was purchased, then we would have an ad that pops up that says, something about you're probably going to need one of these, now that with your new protein powder, or to help you take this to work, that kind of thing. Or now you're going to need an extra set. So we would phrase it in some way to position. You can say to Facebook, if somebody purchases from this group of products, show them this group of products. And you can do that as many times as you want to make it really granular. Or sometimes I'll just split the catalog in half. I'll kind of do the primary offering and have that be a group. And then all sort of the ancillary side items will be a second group. That's what we did for Prairie Mod here. Their pottery is their primary product set. And then after they purchase those, we show them dried flowers and coasters and pillows and things like that will go well with what they just purchased. And then reactivation, and we talked about how that works as well, but we would trigger that after a certain period of time. After a purchase is made, let's say 90 days, purchase was made 90 days ago, but there's been no purchase since that time, that would fire off my first reactivation ad. So we've hit 45 minutes here, so I'll wrap this up. But something to keep in mind, I know I've thrown a ton of content at you guys here, but successful funnels are built not in a day, but daily. So what that means is you got to start with something. It's a process. So you put together your initial hypothesis, right? What you think will work, and run a test, run your first campaigns. So what you're testing and what you're doing depends on how far into your Facebook advertising, career you are with your store, right? So if you're a brand new store, you're going to want to be testing which products are working well, which audiences should I be targeting, and then see what the results are, make some tweaks, and you're always working on this. If you're a little further down the line and you've been running ads for a while for your store, then you're going to want to start building out those warm campaigns laterally. So, for example, we have the video blog post that we show after a few days, and then the blog post, the video that shows how it's made, and that sort of thing. So we just start building it out wider and wider. But it's something to keep in mind. Really, is just that it's a process, and to bite off small chunks. If I were to kind of break it down how to start out, I would just look at the three. Well, that's a lot farther back than I thought. I would just look at the 3 temperatures, the 3 audience groups. Create an ad for your cold audiences. Start with that. Then create an ad for your warm audiences. If you don't have any customers, you don't really need to worry about your hot audiences yet. Just work on cold and warm and get started. Once you see some traction, then you can start to build out the funnel wider. But you don't want to build out this elaborate funnel for a product that may not even sell if it hasn't been proven. So another sort of piece of advice that I could offer, and this is a little bit more down the road, or if you've got an established store, but I love this stat. On average, so 10% on average, loyal customers are worth up 10% as much as their first purchase. A lot of my clients, once we start working together, we get really focused on that initial return on ad spend, and that's important. And we do a great job of generating a real strong return on ad spend. But it's also important to think about the long-term view. And lifetime, you don't need to do lifetime view. You could do a 60-day view of your customers. What's the 60-day value or the 90-day value? But find sort of a logical cutoff point and see what your customers are worth. I'm working with a client right now that has a ton of repeat purchases, but they don't take that into account when determining which ads they would like to continue running. And so I see them cutting off ads that would generate very valuable customers, but they're really focused on day one revenue. And there's a time for day one and a time for long-term value, right? When you're starting out, you have to make your campaigns pay for themselves. But this is something that I really think is important, playing the long game, because your competitors have the same constraints that you do largely, right? The cost to acquire a customer for them is going to be pretty similar to the cost to acquire a customer for you, right? And so if you can increase the value of your customers, increase the average order value, increase the frequency, do these things that give you more money to spend on your campaigns, then you can outspend and outbid all of your customers and really take over, all of your competitors and take over a market. So let's see. I guess that was the last slide here. But if you guys would like to talk with Kurt Elster or myself about your own funnel, putting this together for your Shopify store, you can hit this link, and I'm sure Kurt will have that in the chat for you as well. But it's ethercycle.com/FB ad. And we could talk about whether it makes sense for you and take it from there. Next, I've got a QA section here.
Sure.
Cordoned off. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bullock.
Take a breath now.
Well, go ahead. That was excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box, that big red Ask a Question button at the bottom, and we'll go through it. It looks like we have a few questions already. Cool. I have several. Very good. First one. What's your and you touched on this a little bit, so it's a recap. What would be your take on the newer, more involved types of ads like carousel, etc., versus single image and video, which seems closer to the native feed content? And that one's from Adam Till.
Right on, Adam. No, that's a great question. So in my view, video is definitely something to be focused on. That's probably our most effective ad type for scaling. Our videos have been doing really well, and Facebook seems to give us preference when we're running videos because they're trying to outpace YouTube and things like that, right? But that's beside the fact. It's just very effective. People that watch videos can connect with you and your brand. People absorb a lot more information in videos and much more rapidly than they do text. And I guess the bottom line is that the numbers speak for themselves for our campaigns. The video does really well. That's not necessarily a new ad type, but looking specifically at the new like collection ad type. There's also a new one called product. I think it's just called product set, and it's essentially like a dynamic product ad, but you can show it to cold audiences. So you create a product set, and instead of having it be a retargeting ad, Facebook is going to start using, I guess, past behavior that they've looked at in other stores. Anyway, we can go real deep on this, but they're using these links, right? When you have a Google identifier number, right? That Google's doing this as well. They're trying to figure out specifically what everybody's looking at so that they can make better recommendations. And so Facebook is probably going to start requiring that we have these different identifiers like SKUs and product identifier numbers. At any rate, I am having fun testing out the collection ads. They're working well in the top 2 levels of my funnel. And then the new product set ads, I've only used a few times, and so far I haven't been able to make them produce results less expensively than I have with my other ads yet.
Cool.
But I'll keep experimenting with those.
Good answer. Next question comes from Dan W., who asked, what's the critical mass? How many clicks or opt-ins before you could take advantage of retargeting in an email sequence? It seems like a couple $100 in spend just doesn't generate a big enough audience to retarget efficiently.
Yeah. Well, let's see. So we're looking at, I'm not seeing it to actually read it over in my mind, but if you can clarify it for me again, Kurt. So are we talking about the audience size here or the budget?
It sounds like it's an audience size. So it's what kind of audience do you need to do retargeting is question 1. And then question 2 is what kind of budget do you need to get traction with an audience for top of funnel for cold traffic?
Yeah, right on. Okay. So you are right. If you're using the very bare minimum, well, I've got a slide here that will actually help. Usually keep a couple extra slides here at the back for questions. Here we go.
You got to reshare your screen. I killed your screen share.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, I'll try it. We'll see if it happens real quick. If not, I'll just talk through it.
Got it.
Any luck? Okay, great. All right. So this is something that I have been working with on some of our new stores we're working with. This will be a little bit, it's not a super quick answer, but I think it will be useful. This is something that Facebook has recently put out information about. This was sort of hidden before. They didn't tell us much about this. So I have 2 examples, budget A and budget B. Let's say that this is sort of the minimum budget, right? You're spending, $5, $10 a day. And let's say that, budget B is 5 times that. Well, Facebook has told us that they want to see between 15 and 25 events per conversion window. And I'm sorry, I'll try to make this, too sort of technical, but there's certain, right, we're talking about behavioral based indicators, right? So we can see if somebody looks at the content on our site. We can tell if somebody adds to cart, and certainly if somebody purchases them. And this information is sent to Facebook. So Facebook has given us a few options recently. Now we can choose, before we could not choose, we can choose whether we want to optimize it based on 1 day or 7 day. Now, why would you want to change between those 2 things? Well, to try and meet this criteria. So they want to see 15 to 25 events per conversion window. So if your ad spend is such that you are only getting, a few view contents, that means a few people are looking at your site a day or your products a day, then you don't want to optimize on 1 day optimization because you're not hitting 15 to 25. You would then want to move that back down to 7 day. So I guess the reason I'm jumping to this, Dan, is that you may not be sort of hitting that critical mass if you're using, maybe, let's say you're on one-day optimization, or maybe you're optimizing for purchases. That's what a lot of people do in their ad settings. You set it up what you want to optimize for, right? And you can select leads, page views, view content, add to cart, all sorts of different events there. And a lot of people go straight for purchase. Now, what I have found is that at the top of my funnels, I'll often split test these, but at the top, I usually target something a little bit higher volume. For instance, I'm definitely getting more add to cart events every day than I am purchases. And so to help train Facebook and give them lots of information, I would maybe start with targeting, optimizing for add to cart. So again, if I can't meet that number on the one day, then I would move it over to 7. What are the ramifications? Well, one day Facebook is going to run their algorithms and optimize for you on a daily basis. So you're going to see progress a little bit more quickly. Facebook is going to get the hang of what you're trying to show it. On a daily basis, this is how they're going to be optimizing. Versus the 7-day, you're going to see more like a ladder, stair step, where you're going to see, for 7 days, it's going to kind of go up and down a little bit, little squiggly line. And then on day 7, you'll hopefully see a boost, right? A boost could mean more impressions, cheaper impressions, more sales, cheaper conversions, that sort of thing. So an improvement because they're optimizing. So now how budget comes into play is that's going to allow you, based on your goals, to do this more quickly. So if you can only afford a certain amount, then go 7-day optimization and optimize. So the further down, the better. Optimizing for purchases is better than view content, but you have to have the numbers. If you don't have enough, 15 to 25 per 7 days or per 1 day, then go up the funnel to add to cart. Now, budget beat, this is going to allow you to get those numbers, right? So if you spend enough, then hopefully you'll get the 15-day purchases a day or the add to cart. And you can live here in 1-day optimization land where you are making progress a lot more quickly than 7-day optimization land. So that was a really long answer, but I hope that it helps you understand a little bit how you can make that work with your budget.
Very good. All right, let me stop that screen share. Close video. There we go. I will mark that answer as done. Okay. A whole bunch more popped up. Oh my gosh. Okay, lightning round.
What did I do?
Let's wrap through these.
Yeah.
I'm very new to Facebook ads. Really confused with it. I read nonstop that people are setting add to cart or view content ads, but how? All I see in my ad manager is PPE, conversion.
Okay. So the way that you set those up, and this is probably a whole nother sort of screen share to show you what that all looks like. But the only way that you're going to see those sort of optimization events, the conversion events that you're talking about, is if you choose a conversion-based campaign. So if your campaign, now they change them every week, every month with calling these. But when you first go to create a campaign, there's 3 columns here, and only on the 3rd column over here is where you can choose conversions, a conversion-based ad. And that's where Facebook is going to let you optimize for one of these conversion events. Otherwise, they're going to optimize for things on their end, like engagement, views, right? Video views, that sort of thing. So you set it up, you just have to have the right ad type or campaign type for that option to even appear. So I can see why that'd be confusing.
Yeah, and then they go on to ask, how do you know your ads are working? Well, that's where you want to have conversion tracking set up so you can see the actual, like what, I know what I spent on this ad, and then I know how much revenue it generated. So now I can figure out what my return on ad spend is and if it's positive. So right on. Mark that answer is done. Let's see. Brett asks, do you use Ad Espresso for Facebook ads? And if so, would you recommend it?
I have used them. I used them for a while, and I stopped using them this year. The reason for me is that Facebook, for a long time, was playing catch up. They would look and see what Ad Espresso and these other companies were doing and add the features because they were sort of on the cutting edge. But the flip side of that is that the new things that Facebook releases, you have to wait for Ad Espresso to add them. That's one reason. And also the reporting, the way that they set up the reporting is not as dynamic as I would like it. The great thing about it is that they have like graphs, and that's why I initially turned to them, and they help do split tests. Now Facebook's editors and ad manager they have made a ton of advancements just in this last month in helping you create your own split tests for different variables and a lot of the things that I wasn't at Espresso for in the past. So I did, and now I don't. I feel like Facebook Ads Manager is great by itself.
Very good. I agree. Let's see. Here's another from Adam Till. Is there much point in trying to do organic, unpromoted content creation on Facebook anymore?
Not a ton. I just had this conversation with a client this week, and my recommendation was to, it's pay to play now. So boost your posts. $5 a day is going to make a big difference. If you compare what your reach is when you just post something to your page versus when you boost it, there's a huge difference. And so if you want that kind of penetration into your audience, you essentially need to boost posts or run Facebook ads. Just doing organic, Facebook isn't really an organic platform very much now. The one way that it works organically is when people share content. If you're running an ad and people start to share it, then you can see your organic views go way up and you kind of get that extra bang for your buck. But they're not going to get that initial exposure usually unless you're paying in some way for it.
All right, Mark, that answer is done. And last question, and then we will call today. Which campaign type, this is from Tom, who has also been on the podcast, which campaign type have you found more successful for lead generation? Facebook lead ads or website clicks with a landing page? I could tell you for me, I had better success both in cost and conversion with Facebook lead ads.
Yeah, so lead ads, I typically use lead ads as well. There's the only time that I use my own landing page and build that out is typically if that's going to be a real business objective, and then I'll split test the two even still. So I'm sorry, that's not a very good answer for you, Tom, as to which one works better. In my experience, I typically go to lead ads, but I do build out landing page. Like let's say that a key part of the growth plan for this business is that we're going to be doing a free plus shipping campaign. Then sometimes I'll build a landing page specifically that talks people through all of that and how it works and sets up upsells and downsells, all that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned, I always split test it, and usually I find that lead ads work better. The one problem with lead ads is that since it pre-populates their data, a lot of times it's old email address they signed up with on Facebook, when it first came out, 5-10 years ago.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, and because I don't use the same email that I log into Facebook with, and so none of those things ever make it to me. So, yeah.
That answers it. Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. And if you like what you heard here and would like even more free resources and tools to grow your store, sign up for my Shopify newsletter, ethercycle.com/guide. A replay of this webinar will be available at youtube.com/ethercycle. And thanks again for joining us today. We will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.